Welcome back to the deep dive.
After church last Sunday, I was just really buzzing about Pastor Florin's latest message.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the one from the Stories of Redemption, Love, and the Unexpected series. His take on Joseph in Genesis 41. It got me thinking a lot about how we actually live this stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for this deep dive, I thought, okay, let's try and unpack that. Let's pull out the most important, nuggets of wisdom from the sermon that can help you apply it day to day. Especially this idea of what it really means to, apprentice under Jesus.
Right.
Because, hearing a great message is one thing, but actually doing it, that's something else entirely.
Totally. And that sermon, it felt so practical, didn't it? Like real wisdom for the stuff we all bump up against. I think especially for, younger people trying to figure things out right now.
Yeah.
And Pastor Florin really nailed, God often works in these, unexpected ways. I mean, Joseph, right, stuck in prison, basically forgotten.
And then boom, God uses him to minister to the very people who enslaved him. It just perfectly sets up this whole idea of apprenticeship we're digging into.
That's a great way to frame it. Okay, so Pastor Florin kicked off with this idea he called simmering time.
Mm-hmm.
He pointed to Genesis 41, verse 1, where Joseph is just waiting. More than 2 years in prison after he did the right thing interpreting those dreams.
Yeah, 2 years.
I mean, seriously, we get impatient waiting 2 minutes for coffee. So what do you think is the biggest, maybe, mental block for people in those long, drawn-out, simmering times?
Oh, that's a good one. Because we all hit those patches, right? Where it feels like you're just stuck. I think the biggest hurdle is probably feeling powerless. Or starting to think, well, maybe nothing's really changing. Or even worse, that God's kind of checked out.
Right, that feeling of being forgotten.
Exactly. But what Pastor Florin pointed out, which I loved, was that God is actually super active even when it looks completely quiet on the surface. That sourdough bread analogy he used.
Yeah, that was great.
Perfect, right. Those resting periods, they look like nothing's happening, but they're totally essential for the bread to actually rise. It needs that quiet, unseen work.
So it's not dead time.
Not at all. It's prep time. And this quiet reliance, this trusting the unseen process, that's maybe lesson number 1 for anyone trying to apprentice under Jesus, like a master craftsman teaching you the patience needed for, that perfect wood finish.
Okay.
Jesus teaches us that real growth often happens in those unglamorous, quiet, simmering bits. And Pastor Florin's challenge for those times was so direct: don't rush and don't fret. God is working out his plan.
Don't rush, don't fret. Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, for sure. But it's not just about gritting your teeth and enduring it. It's more about actively learning patience, actively learning trust during those lulls. It's practicing that quiet reliance, letting God handle the timing, even when you can't see a thing changing. That's a real skill you build in this spiritual apprenticeship.
Okay, I get that. Active trust, not just passive waiting. But how does that connect to actually doing something? Because waiting can feel so unproductive.
That's the key difference, isn't it? It's not unproductive because the work is happening internally. God's using that season to shape you, to teach you something, maybe refine your character, get you ready for whatever's coming next.
Oh, okay.
It's like you're not just waiting for the next thing, you're waiting with Jesus through it, like an apprentice using downtime to sharpen their tools, organize the workshop, getting ready. You're building spiritual muscles you wouldn't develop otherwise.
Sharpening the tools. I like that. It reframes those waiting periods. Okay, so then Pastor Florin pivoted to a second point, troubled leadership. He pointed to Pharaoh, right? Yep. Genesis 41:8, Pharaoh's mind is troubled, his spirit is agitated. And the point was, if the king is troubled, everyone is troubled. This idea that God sometimes, stirs the pot during turmoil.
Yeah.
That really caught my attention. How did you take that? Yeah. Especially with, everything going on today.
Yeah, that's a really profound idea. The sermon stressed that when things are chaotic, personally, socially, whatever, God is actually busy preparing good works for his people to do.
Okay.
Think about it. The cupbearer only remembered Joseph because Pharaoh was freaking out about his dreams.
Right. The trouble created the opening.
Exactly. The widespread trouble, the unrest, it led straight to Joseph's big moment. It just shows how God can use chaotic times to bring clarity or open doors we didn't even see. And Pastor Florin was clear. These moments of unrest are prime time for God's people to step up, to be his ambassadors. He wasn't talking about taking political sides or anything.
No.
But just general turmoil, economic stress, social division, health crises, stuff like that. These are the times our faith gets really practical, really visible. And his instruction was super hands-on. When you see trouble brewing, when you see unrest, stop and observe.
Stop and observe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God may be calling you to a new way of serving him, a new way to bring the gospel. Stop, observe, and look for opportunities.
So it's not just about hunkering down, but actively looking for where God's at work in the mess. That feels like a core part of this apprenticeship idea.
Absolutely. Being an apprentice of Jesus isn't a passive thing. It means you're actively looking for chances to serve him, serve others, especially when it's tough. It's like, learning by doing. You see a need, you step in, offering hope or help based on the gospel. That's how you start seeing things the way Jesus does.
Makes sense. Okay, which brings us to the third point, and this felt really critical. Joseph being called back.
Yeah.
Genesis 41.14.
Yeah, the big moment.
Right. And Pastor Florin pointed out that detail about Joseph shaving, changing his clothes to getting ready. It has this cool layer of historical reliability.
Totally.
But the main question Pastor Florin hit us with was about the two options Joseph had right then.
Yeah.
The option to shine, make it all about him, versus the option to serve. Humility. Focus on God. What's the takeaway there for us, especially maybe for younger folks trying to navigate ambition and faith?
Yeah, this part felt like a really crucial warning, especially today with so many messages about success and what that even means. Pastor Florin warned about the prosperity gospel.
Okay, can you unpack that a bit? What does that really mean?
Sure. So it's often linked to just wanting, money or possessions. And Pastor Florin said, yeah, nice things are fine, but only to practice crazy generosity.
Right. Generosity focused.
Exactly. But the prosperity gospel idea is broader. It can creep into ideas about power, like God wants you to be this powerful figure, or even pleasure and comfort. God just wants to protect your family and give you an easy, comfortable life.
Okay.
Now, the tricky part, and why it's dangerous, is that it's kind of half true. God does love us. He does want to bless us and cares about our well-being, of course.
Sure.
But it gets dangerous when that becomes the only focus, when it's all self-centered, at the expense of surrender and humility. That's the key phrase Pastor Florin used.
Ah, okay. So it's not that blessings are bad, but the focus can warp things.
Precisely. It can turn you into what he called a consumer Christian, someone who shows up kind of asking, what's in it for me? What can I get from God? What can I get from church? Instead of asking, how can I serve? How can I give? How can I become more like Jesus through humility? It's like going into the master's workshop asking what you can take, not what you can learn or contribute.
That's a sharp distinction. Ouch.
Yeah, and that's why that key question he posed was so powerful. Who is at the center? Where's the focus?
Right.
Is Jesus really at the center of your life? Center of your stuff, your relationships, your identity, everything? And he warned us, be careful of those that talk about God but rarely mention the Lord Jesus Christ.
That's a big one.
Huge. He just kept hammering it. The Christian life is a Christ-centered life. Be on guard, don't be deceived.
Okay, so that's the guardrail. Always checking.
Yeah.
Is this about me or is this about Jesus? How do we, practically keep checking that? It seems easy to drift.
It is easy to drift. It's a daily thing, isn't it? Constantly coming back to that question. Is Jesus truly center? For an apprentice, this is maybe the most vital lesson. Real apprenticeship is learning to live that Christ-centered life, where humility and serving others consistently win out over chasing personal gain or power or just comfort.
Right.
It means practicing surrender every day and learning to spot the difference between real faith and those half-truths that sound good but are ultimately empty. It's a hands-on daily choice that shapes everything.
It really lands. Okay, so wrapping this up, Pastor Florin gave us those 3 clear actions, right? They really show what this apprenticeship looks like. First, in your simmering time, don't rush, don't fret. God's working.
Yep, trust the process.
Second, when you see unrest, stop, look around, observe. Find those opportunities God's putting there for you to serve.
Be alert, be ready.
And third, stay sharp. Don't get fooled by a half gospel. Keep Jesus right at the absolute center of it all.
Exactly. And if you weave those together, you see that following Jesus isn't just mental agreement. It's a real practical day in, day out apprenticeship. It's about practicing these things, patience when you're waiting, active observation when things are chaotic, and constantly choosing Jesus over self. That's how we actually live the way of Jesus. Not just know about it, but do it. That's how we become more like the master.
Doing, not just knowing. Love that. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. What simmering time are you in right now? Or where is God maybe nudging you to serve amidst the unrest you see around you? And what's one small step you can take today to make Jesus the absolute center in that specific situation?
Good questions to sit with.
Yeah. Hey, if this deep dive was helpful for you, maybe share it with a friend who could use it too. And just a reminder, you can always submit prayer requests on our website, agapechurch.life. Seriously, our prayer team loves praying for you and will pray specifically over your request.
Please do send those in.
Definitely. And also, check out Agape Community Church's YouTube channel and the website for more sermons like Pastor Florin's and other resources. There's lots more to explore there.
Good stuff there.
For sure. Well, thanks for digging into this with me today.
Always good to talk it through.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.